I just wanted to express my appreciation, actually, for a number of themes that I see coming through, actually, the list of the panels. And, I see memory, space, and virtuality as pervasive themes in this work. And also, personally, for me, it was really wonderful to hear the public sphere, because one of the pet things I have to say always is, we're talking about the circulation of communication, and let's not be technologically deterministic and say, media, internet does this, but rather, as you look at, as you do so effectively, look at these modes and uses of communication in and through media, which I thought was an important thing. And the other thing I just really appreciated was also this call to this sort of appeal to materiality that is running through, I think, all of the panels as well. Because what we're looking at is not this virtual dematerialization of stuff, but the material in new spaces, and the materiality of movement, along with the material production of a communicative space online, that to me is in fact, to me, feels very tangible as well. So I just want to express my appreciation for those threads, and we talk about the impermanence of media, but also their reach. So I guess I just wanted to sort of express my appreciation for that theme of materiality that is important as we speak of this virtual space.
So yeah, again, thanks for a really great panel, which provoked a lot of thoughts. And I think one of the key challenges, and I'd just like to hear your thoughts on it, especially since you've been working on the digital for so long, and so you really have a great perspective over time. There's a real tension between the particular and the universal when it comes to the digital, which basically I think can't be mapped out in terms of either or, to put it in those terms. So on the one hand, it is absolutely the case that, the West, to kind of simplify things, is often determining a certain type of discourse, right? And I think we need to throw in there the kind of cultural pundit who theorizes the digital from McLuhan to people in the present, right, who have enormous power to fix what those narratives are. And obviously, there is massive amounts of difference when it comes to the digital. It drives me crazy when people say digital activism is contradictory. And I'm like, well, it's only contradictory if it was a singular thing. But you can have, digital politics that range from those that converge very deeply with social movements to the forms of clicktivism and slacktivism, right? And everything and anything between, right? So there's so much particularity when it comes to the internet. And yet, whether it is the fact that, you need servers and system administrators to deliver the data, whether it is certain kind of ideologies around free speech and access, which do have vibrancy outside of the West as well, right? The ways in which the public, which came out of, the West, takes hold in different parts of the world, there's obviously elements that go beyond the particular, too. And so the question is, how do you sort of start to think about it in a way that just blasts away the binary entirely, so you recognize difference, all the while you also recognize very strong points of connection as well when you study internet formations.
Again, same wonderful paper and panel. But Patty, the reason why the date was sort of in the forefront of my head is because that memorial was outside my college, Balliol College,
Right.
and I got spat upon outside that memorial in an act of remembrance of the death of Bobby Sands in 1980, the self-inflicted starvation death of Bobby Sands in prison. And it goes to this issue of digital activism and materiality is, and again, I don't want to get caught in either or, but is there not the danger that putting your body on the line in the way that Gandhi envisioned civil disobedience is not replicated online? I mean, to be sure, there's penalties, and anonymity sometimes evades the civic responsibility of your actions. But when I got spat upon that day by passerbyers because of our protest, if I'd had that option to do this protest online, I probably would have taken it. To be utterly honest, it was.
Well, the pain of witnessing, of course, is a very crucial theme, in the body of work on witnessing.
Yeah.
That you witnessing is is something that you do under duress, and I most certainly do think that sort of witnessing is an embodied thing. So and I take my hat off to you for bearing witness in that way. It's worth remembering that this particular memorial precisely embodies a religious conflict in Britain between Protestants and Catholics. That this martyrs' memorial was built by a low church Anglican clergyman outraged by the Oxford movement and the anxiety that they might sort of return to the embrace of Rome, God help us.
The Papists.
Yes, the Papists.
Do you want to respond? Oh. All right, is this on? Oh,
Good question.
okay, go ahead. One more question and then I'll respond. Okay, sure.
Well, Professor Bernal, how would you answer a plain question whether these people who left Eritrea and are now a part of this virtual community, are they members of the Eritrean nation? How would you answer this question?
Okay.
And my question is inspired by, you can probably hear my Russian accent. So there's a huge discussion in this Russian-speaking virtual community, not just Russian people, but all kinds of people from the former Soviet Union who left, but are very active in this virtual space. Are they members of the nation? What right do they have to actually participate and ask questions and address the government, etc.?
Okay, well, I can, is this good? Is this on? I can take that last one first. Actually, the Eritrean state has wanted to include the diaspora, so it regards them as members of the nation. They are issued national identity cards which don't interfere with the fact that they're actually Canadian citizens, American citizens, German citizens, Swedish citizens, and so on. And in fact, the actually never implemented Eritrean constitution, which is kind of a law of the land at some level, but they haven't implemented having parties or elections or many things. But the law that they constructed for citizenship gives a right of Eritrean citizenship to anybody born of an Eritrean mother or Eritrean father, no matter where they're born. So they specifically constructed a citizenship law that would allow the children born from Eritreans in diaspora also to be able to claim Eritrean nationality if they wanted to. And because they created that system of nationality cards that serve as national IDs in dealing with Eritrea but are not internationally recognized, nobody has to be fraught about, well, I can't really give up American citizenship for that or whatever, so they can sort of use American passports when they travel or whatever, but to enter Eritrea, they can have their national ID card, so they don't need to have a visa or in dealing with matters of the government. And actually, Eritrean diaspora is subject to a tax, an income tax, which is supposed to be 2% of their net income. And it's more or less been kind of on an honorary, honor system that you say how much your income is and you give something. But so they really, for the purpose of the government, they actually are regarded as part of the nation. And even when government representatives are coming, like a couple of years ago, they had an event in Washington, D.C. for sort of the younger generation with the President Isaias telling them, you are the future of Eritrea. These are like kids born and raised and going to school in America, but they really want to keep that connection. So it's different, I think, than from some other diasporas. So many interesting points were raised. I'll just kind of take some random ones, but I thought that Dr. Askew's point about the interactivity of the internet is, and it's kind of ironic that actually most of what's going on these websites is very interactive. I happened in this case to focus on something that was really unique to the websites, that they actually created this memorial which allows no comments or anything. It's completely not interactive, and they really wanted it's very different than the extremely lively and sometimes insulting or informal, all kinds of exchanges that go on the regular pages of these websites. This was really constructed to be clearly something separate, and because you not necessarily want some kind of a memorial next to something where people are using curse words and expressing themselves in vulgar ways or whatever it is, and they didn't want anybody to put anything disrespectful there. But a lot of what I actually am interested in are the exchanges and the kinds of interactive things that go on in the way that people are responding. They're stimulated by something that somebody posted, and then they bring their experience or their idea about it. And so what I really have been looking at mostly are these larger sort of, not even threads, bigger than threads, but sort of dominant discourses that seem to emerge in terms of how people are dealing in a certain way with a particular aspect of Eritrean reality. But in terms of deaths and memorializing, there was an interesting interactive one where on the website Dahai, a high government official that had been, like most of the government officials, they were originally guerrilla fighters like the president himself, and now they're the people in the one-party state, and a high government official had died, and on the Dahai website they had a page, a link that sort of said, here you can write your message of condolence to the family of this minister, and then click to send it. And it's such a tragedy that this man who's been this high official and served the nation has died. And somebody responded in relationship to that, mentioning the history of the fact that when families were told that their family members had died in the liberation struggle, they were told not to mourn them because they had died serving the nation and it was such a great honor, et cetera, et cetera. And so somebody responded to that saying, like, oh no, this is no cause for being sad. We should all be ululating because he died serving the nation, and sort of, coming back with an ironic thing to really point out the double standard, like, oh, now when one of yours dies, we're all supposed to acknowledge it's so tragic, but when thousands of ordinary people, lost, they're supposed to just celebrate because, and that kind of ties with this whole the complex term of martyr and what it means. I mean, in a simple way, I feel it's the secular nationalists saying we are the new religion. I mean, they're taking a term that has a lot of resonance with Christians and Muslim Eritreans, but they're renaming it really for their own purposes, and they, it's sort of saying that they are, you have to have faith in the nation, and the nation is, but they're sort of building the symbolic power from the fact that that term has so much resonance.